Okay, today's assignment. You're going to be using what you've learned about blending modes and masking and opacity and filters and selecting. Basically, everything we've learned up to this point to create an artificial environment, an artificial battle scene. Imagine like you're creating or designing a cover for some sort of war game, and a company asks you to design something, and what I want you to do is, if you take a look right up here, this is kind of a final product of one example for this project. Now, I don't want you to create this exactly, but this is just an example to show you something, some sort of battle zone, made up battle zone area. And I use battle zone, the term loosely. So this is a good example. These are the images that you're going to be using right down here, and you can you can see there. This is the base photo that you're going to be working with, but there's lightning, there is a firework, right? There's some planes, there's a cloud. Now, I don't have this one in here with me, so you don't have to use this particular photo, but I'd like you to add two more photos of your choice when you're creating this artificial environment. Now, one thing we want to be aware of first is I want you to make sure you have stuff in the foreground, right? Something up front, something in the background, and something in the middle ground, so that your image has a lot of depth, so that your scene has a lot of depth to it. And I'm just going to go over some of the tips, and then you can get started on it. I'm not going to recreate this whole thing because it would take a long time, but I want to just give you some pointers before you get started. And please remember, I want you to create your own environment. I don't want you to just try to mimic what I have here. Be creative, and then pick two images of your choice that you want to implement in this artificial environment as well. And remember, this one right here is not on the website in terms of downloading, but all these other photos you can download and use as well. So to get started, this is your base photograph, and just a few things I want to show you. In terms of blending mode, if I drag this up here and make it smaller, right? And you're like, well, do I have to mask out the black part? Not all of it. Take a look. If you go to your blending mode and use difference, that does a pretty good job of taking the black out, right? There might be some stuff right here that you can mask out. You can set it somewhere and then use a mask, right? And then the black will burn through. And then you can just kind of mask out the area that you don't want, right? Let's say you don't want, let's say you wanted it specifically on that plane, so you can just kind of mask out right here, right? And you can mask out this section right here. The jets, when you're selecting the jets, don't forget the magic wand tool. You can click on it, click on the blue, and then simply right click, select inverse, and now you can just simply drag it in. So I'm going to go back, and you can drag it in here. And don't forget to rename your layers. Gray jet and firework. Now, you can place this wherever. Remember, you can resize it. You can reposition it. You can make copy layers too, right? If you want to make a copy, just drag it down here, and then now you have a copy of this jet as well, right? If you want to make it even smaller in the background. What else? With the lightning, you'll have to use the mode as well to blend it in, and you might have to mask out a lot of stuff to get the lightning to work. Last few things that I want to cover, like if you wanted to change this, you can go and add a an adjustment layer, and then let's say shift it all the way to the left for black and white. And it doesn't have to be black and white. It's up to you. But what a few people I've seen in the past, they'll create the adjustment layer, but they won't have all the layers. They'll have a layer or two above it, and then that will create, that'll leave it in color. So if you want to change the whole thing, you have to make sure that your adjustment layer is on top. So drag that layer and make sure it's on top, or else you're going to have some things in color and some things aren't. And that's what you're going for. Another thing, let's say I'll add brightness and contrast. Right, make it a little bit darker. And I'm just giving you guys ideas. You don't have to follow this. Another thing that I wanted to show, if you create a blank layer, and let's say I click on it and color it in, some sort of, maybe a different color, let's say red. If I click on it and just color it all red, then I could play around with my blending modes again, and you can get some pretty cool looking effects. So that's an option as well. If you want to, at the end, if you want to turn it black and white and then just do a blank layer and color it in and then change the blending mode, you can do that as well, which has a pretty cool effect to it. Another thing that you can do is you can add a blank layer and color it in, let's say black, and then you can use your mask tool, and like we did with one of the previous exercises, is you can lower your opacity of your brush, make sure it's on black, and then make sure it's nice and large, like so, and you can kind of click around and just go around and around, like so, creating a nice little kind of bordered, soft edge border effect as well, right? And that's a mask, so you're not making any permanent damage or destructive edits to your photo. Remember, you're going to have a ton of layers, so you'll want to stay super organized. Be creative, right? Make sure I haven't put anything in the foreground here yet, so I'd probably want to create something in the foreground to add some depth, but you can see that the plane sizes are different sizes, which are nice. And then going back to this one, look at how I have this protruding out right here, right in front of me. So make sure you add some depth to it as well. Okay, go for it.